matched on to where they were. We were able to follow them through the casino. Amanda did a lot of walking and talking, and Jennifer was more of the gambler. She would play a few slot machines.
It's all around. Okay. Good evening, everyone. It is 6:02 p.m. This is the regular business meeting of the Smithfield Township Board of Supervisors. Please join me in reciting the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Members present include Vice Chair Robert Lowenheim, Supervisor Michael Albert, myself, Chair Jacob Pride, Township Manager Julia Eilica, Administrative Coordinator Diana Salvi, Township Manager, Township Engineer John Tressler, and Solicitor Ron Carasser. First order of business, we have two sets of minutes, May 15th, 2024 joint session and the May 22nd, 2024 regular meeting. You all had a chance to take a look at those.
Yes.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
And motion by Mr. Levenheim.
Both of them?
Yes.
Yeah, second.
Second, Mr. Albert. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Announcements. There was a standing executive session this evening from approximately, it was at 5:40 p.m. to 5:59 p.m. regarding any client privilege matters. There was an executive session held May 24th, 2024 from 12:10 p.m. to 1:43 p.m. regarding personnel matters. Another from May 31st, 2024 from 11:06 a.m. to 11:32 a.m. regarding the Ellis enforcement and litigation. And finally, there was another on June 4th from 3:47 p.m. to 4:51 p.m. regarding attorney-client privilege matters. And finally, the hazardous waste collection event is Saturday, June 15th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Military Road Recycling Site, and pre-registration is required. You can go online and do that, I believe, as of now still. Okay, bills. We have a bill pack totaling $73,103.99. Do I hear a motion on that?
A motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Albert, do I hear a second?
Second.
Any questions?
Yeah, did you say, oh, I saw something, we're gonna share this after? exactly as it is.
It's already on.
Oh, it's already on.
Yeah,
Right.
it's all together.
I know that was a request from the audience, so.
Okay.
We removed the details, and now you can see that. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, reports, we proceed to the solicitor's reports.
We just catch up for one moment, Mr. Chair.
No worries.
For the month of May, I did significant work on the Commonwealth versus Ellis matter that deals with an allegation that an individual is running a business in a residential zone. And I prepared a notice of appeal along with a notice for transcript that I will be filing tomorrow, in fact, because I have other filings to do for the township tomorrow. And I also attended a magisterial district judge hearing earlier in the month. So now we're in June, in which the matter was postponed until another day based upon the decision made by the Superior Court in the appeal. I also prepared the answer in New Mountain River Township to the Carroll petition non pro tonque attacking ordinance number 238. That will be filed tomorrow, also along with the Ellis appeal. I also begun to prepare the decision in Healthy Minds, and when I say the decision, basically the background information, name, rank, serial number, so I can get ahead of it when it comes time to put in whatever your decision may be this evening. So I've been working on that also, and there might be some other odds and ends, but that's what I can think of right now.
Thank you. John, engineer's report?
Thank you, Jacob. The major items that we've been working on and I can report to the board is I did more record research on Price's Landing Road. I sent the results of my findings to Julia. Julia still needs to review it. And she'll be presenting it to the board when she's done with that. The bike park, the MPDS permit has been submitted. It's with the Conservation District now. The wellness park, we've got that design just about finalized. It should be done by the end of this week. We've sent requests to the Conservation District to meet with them. They require a meeting to make applications, so we're in the process of doing that. Missy met with Alex to go over the MS4 requirements for the period ending June of this year. We got a new subdivision sketch plan for the Chicatis property in. We've reviewed that and issued a review letter for the planning commission for tomorrow night. And this is projection. I have a meeting with Ted Hunter tomorrow afternoon, and he wants to talk about some revisions to the Shawnee PRD plan. So that's what I've been up to the last couple of weeks.
Great, thank you. Any board members want to note anything? Robert?
No question.
Mike?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. All right. Next was going to be a presentation by Monroe County Vector Control, but that was my mistake. They're actually going to be here on June 26th at our next meeting. So we don't have to go through that today. Next is our consent agenda, which is a consideration to approve the Green Light Go change order. The second one, authorize the execution of a Kaufman Trailers LLC quote for $8,270, $720. Consider adopting resolution number 555, the fee schedule update regarding special event permits, but zeros that out until we change our ordinance. Next is approving a special event permit for menacing Ave block party and waive the fee. Then the adoption of resolution 556, standards for non-governmental contributions. 557, declaring June to be LGBTQIA+ Pride Month. 558, amending resolution 551 regarding fire tax disbursements and standards 559 doing the same with resolution 552 regarding EMS tax disbursements, and then the ratification of the chairman's signature, the verification of the township's answer, and new matter of the Cameron petition. Do I hear a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Levenheim. Do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Albert. Any questions?
Yeah. The fee schedule, what, I went through it all, I didn't see anything crazy, what changed? We,
Just the special.
We only changed the fee associated with special events. We dropped that from a fee to nothing.
what was
So
it before?
No, 70.
I think it was either 50 or 7, I don't remember.
So,
But we've always historically waived almost all of them.
I know, so this is where I'm gonna go back on something I said before, and I hate to do this, I'm sorry. Just, you know, when I think about the intention of fees is usually to cover the costs of issuing the permit, which is the zoning officer's time, a little bit of Julia's time. And so the more I thought about this, while I generally, we went back and forth, like, why do you need a permit for doing these things? We realized it makes sense to have a permit because otherwise someone could just set up shop and sell stuff indefinitely on their front yard or whatever, unless you have a special permit. So I agree, we need special permits. But now I'm just wondering, you know, we're sort of breaking with what the purpose of the fee is, which is, you know, it was nominal small. I understand we always waive it. And maybe what it should be is it should be waived automatically for nonprofits, but I mean, I'm not against it all. I'm just, how many of these do we do? And maybe I shouldn't waste anybody's more time on this, but.
No, it's all good. It's generally only a few per year, and I think the reason why we were zeroing this
Less
out
than 10.
was because we intended to, I think by July, have a new policy in place for that. And have, instead of having to waive the fees for the next several that I'm sure we're going to get, just have it as zero flat.
Okay.
And then change that.
It might make sense to just look, understand what the real costs are associated with issuing that permit, because the idea is, right, you don't want tax dollars to cover permits.
Right.
And, right, that's the idea.
Correct.
If it was up to me, I would get rid of all permit fees, only because if you look at our yearly budget, and last year, we make so little out of it, it doesn't make any difference. It's like $300 or something.
Well, in that sense, maybe our fees aren't high enough. I mean, I don't wanna give too many fees, but if it's not being paid for by the fees, it's being paid for by the taxes, right? It's gotta be paid for somehow.
The question is, how much time will it take? I don't know.
Well,
Right, and if we can reduce that time, that's even more.
Well, I think there's a distinction between, you know, your yard sale permit, which, you know, is fairly minuscule amount of time to make sure that they haven't done due already, things like that. So I get that.
I'm fine with it. I just, let's keep it, if we do plan on revisiting the.
Well, we
permit fees.
are, so we just
So
want
let's
to
think
think
about
about, we're probably going to get a few more of these. And then hopefully, because I think we understood that we want the permit, but not necessarily for everything we're currently granting it for.
Okay.
I would argue, you know, where it doesn't generate traffic. You know, as we contemplate other uses.
Okay. And then my next two are, I think I know, but just for the benefit of everyone else, the changes in the resolutions for the fire and EMS. It was clarifying, right?
Yeah, we had some questions from the Smithfield Township asking if the revenue was gross or net.
Yes.
And we told everybody it's always gross, it's always been gross, and it still seems like someone is telling people that no, it's net. So in the interest of making sure that your position is absolutely clear, we've added the word gross to revenue now.
And this is in the case of whether a full audit or a review is required.
Correct.
Perfect. Before I hand the mic over,
You also want to highlight the
I just want to understand the,
non-governmental contribution.
no, that seems good to me. I mean, that's basically making it so that we clarify that it's, well, unrestricted revenues are not going to be given out. So if someone makes a general ask for $500 for their organization, we're not going to do it. That includes sort of sponsorships, which are general funds, unrestricted money. If there's a specific ask, which is more like a mini grant, we might entertain it.
That, or if we have them involved at one of our events or something.
If it's paying to be at an event to do something, that makes sense, but not necessarily just take tax dollars and give them out at our will to nonprofits that we want.
Correct.
So that's good. And then what are you doing with this? You're just signing it, right? The Carol.
Yes.
And I would say, Mr. Chair, just make certain before I leave this evening that I have the signed verification page, because I have to file it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is the deadline.
Okay.
And the redevelopment authority application, that's not on the section, right?
No, that's under old business.
Okay, all right, that's all I have.
Anything else?
Great. Audience?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, number 10, old business is for the consideration to adopt resolution number 560 of the Monroe County Redevelopment Authority demolition grant application and approve a match commitment letter. Julia, I will let you speak to that.
Sure, the Monroe County Redevelopment Authority offers a year-round grant for demolished and blighted buildings. We are pursuing $40,000 from them to help take down the blighted building that's currently at Marshall's Falls. With the additional $40,000 we hope to receive from this grant, that will be fully funded. And once we have, fingers crossed, the contract signed, we will be able to start the process of taking down that building. It does have asbestos, so it is going to be a little bit more expensive than we first thought. And we unfortunately looked into it and the building can't be staged. So this is our best option.
Well, it's
And the grant, we already received a grant for phase 2, and how much was that?
That's correct.
$58,150. The one that we're matching with.
So the full phase 2 grant is northwards of $367,000. But the 158 within that grant is designated towards the demolition.
And flattening. And
Correct,
laying
yes.
gravel
So what
for
we're
parking.
doing with this is that we are going to be demolishing the house and then flattening and prepping the area for a secondary overflow parking lot.
And it's. With the estimates we're getting now, like, and the, that because it's full of asbestos.
Before we saw the asbestos, we were looking at $60,000 to $70,000. Our newest estimate for everything is just north of 190,000. So hopefully it'll come in underneath that, but we will be fully funded with this development authority grant. The match associated with this is that grant that we've already got, so this is no new township funds going into this project.
You told me we had to get that inspection because of ET grants.
TC and R, so through all of that, yes, we were required to do the inspection, and that's when we got the problems. Yeah.
So there's no match with this 40,000?
There is a match, but it is,
There's no
it is the phase 2, so it's no new money coming to.
Okay,
Do I hear a motion on resolution 560?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Levinheim, do I hear a second?
I will second.
Second by Mr. Bear. Any question? Go ahead, Pat.
I'm Pat Owens. My question is, what happens to all the materials that are taken out of that? Is that just the contractor get those, or are they sold in some way?
You mean like artifacts or things like that?
Anything, yeah, I
Well,
mean, the
that-
lumber,
That will take care of, but most of it would be disposed of. Because there's not a lot that's left in the home currently that would have been anything but debris.
Unfortunately, if you have the opportunity to go to Marshall's Falls,
I have, but I
highly
haven't
recommend you
gone.
observe it from
That's
afar.
hard, you might not make it out.
It's been something like for the past 20 years. If you look at the right side of the roof as you're standing in the parking lot, there's the roof. And then the roof starts about here. So for quite a while, there has been water pouring into that house, which means much of the wood is rotted. It's very dangerous to enter. So part of that bid that the township will be pursuing will be and include the contract and disposing of the materials as they're taken down.
okay, I just want to be sure if there's any value that we capitalize on it.
Yeah,
For sure. And most of the documents and stuff, we know who is the current custodian of that stuff, and we hope to include that in the second phase for public display. Okay, did you have something? Sorry, I thought. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Michael, you wanted to let us know how the sign committee
oh yeah,
process is going.
just because the subcommittee wanted to come back and get a little bit of feedback, so Was that this meeting? Does everyone know what I'm talking about here? So for several years, we believe our signage ordinance is, has holes and flaws and parts of it are not very well enforceable or not being enforced and, the planning commission, this is a classic, probably every other planning commission meeting, there's a discussion on how bad our signage is. So it had multiple iterations. Robert had a pretty good draft that came through and circulated. And ultimately, the last meeting, there was a view that we wanted to maybe start with a sort of model ordinance that has already existed. So the signage committee, which is Alex, Dave Strunk, the planning commission, and myself, have gone through its shoot, which county, it's not Chestnut Hill, it's starts with M, Montgomery. We started with Montgomery model ordinance. We've been through it all, we've discussed it all in detail. We actually, all three of us thought it's pretty good, it's pretty comprehensive. It needs a bunch of edits, it doesn't have the same zones as we do, so we want to, well, and again, it's a model. It's a model ordinance, so that means it's not their ordinance, it's a document that was developed so that other townships can use it and it's a starting point. So we have started going through it, we've gone through definitions, we've gone through permitted by right, not permitted anywhere. And each week we are trying to tackle different sections, about 19 sections, but we're going through, we've already got through 1 through 9, so we're making progress. But we just want to make sure it doesn't, I know there's a goal to make, and I pushed hard on this, a goal to make it as simple as possible. The document is still, and looking at other examples, the signage ordinance when they're alone, they're not that short. This one started out as about 60 pages, however, that included pictures as guide, and it also included a massive appendices, which is like how you calculate the area of what your signage can be, et cetera, et cetera.
That's useful.
It's probably gonna end up being more like 30. It's not like the 6 that we originally have, and honestly, I think like 7 of those pages are definitions. To just be very clear, like what is a billboard, what is a decoration, because it's all about making sure people aren't skirting some of these rules. So we just want to make sure you guys are generally okay with that before, because it's work. We're spending a lot of work.
Yeah, no, that sounds great, and I know when Robert wrote, when you wrote your drafts, you utilized the Montgomery one.
I did, so it's been so long, I can't remember.
Yeah,
Well, I think we read a collective of like 20, but the sound of that, it's good.
I think it's, and we're doing it and thinking about our current township and keeping with what we want, preserving the
More
character, aesthetics. I mean, and I will say a lot of the things the planning commission's been complaining about are very clear in this ordinance as being not allowed. So a lot of the flags that we see, not flags, but like the banners, flags that are everywhere and strewn all over the place. Shredded are very clearly indicated as temporary specific times, only on your own property, with things, it's pretty specific and easy to enforce if you understand it. And not a lot of room for gray areas. So ultimately, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna get to some sort of document and then probably have a working session where we can go through it. That's it. I don't think there's any questions.
Lots of work. Thank you for doing such good work.
I don't know if there's any questions from that.
Brad has one.
Thank you so much. Is there a time frame you're working with?
I think we'd love to see something enacted by the end of the summer.
I think we're looking at hopefully having a joint session. I don't know specifically about this topic, but I think it was.
I'm going to talk to the planning commission tomorrow to check their availability
It
for
works.
Thursday, June 27th.
Yeah.
We currently have a lot of ordinance updates on the plate though, so we're talking about transient lodge uses.
Right.
And transient retail uses and retail uses, I believe.
Right.
The word transient's like all over the place and
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
unclear.
Have to find
What does transient mean?
So I believe that's what is on the agenda for that, but after that meeting, then we can discuss it.
We won't be ready by then, anyway, for signage, but I mean,
But maybe if you.
we're literally meeting every Tuesday morning and tackling 1 to 2 sections each time.
That's what they keep getting the Zoom emails.
Yeah, so
That's good.
don't come because then we have to advertise.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, cool. That sounds great.
That's it.
Great, thank you. Next, John, I want to talk to you about this. Are we ready on the Green Mountain Drive right of way?
Yes, plans have been prepared. I actually submitted them to an appraiser. Well, they were submitted to an appraiser. It's, Mr. McEwen about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And Mr. McEwen said that he felt he had a conflict of interest, that he couldn't do the work. So I contacted another appraiser, and just received information back from him. I'm going to forward that to Julia so she can review it and present it to the board.
Oh, okay, so next meeting, hopefully then.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Do I hear motion to table item C under whole business for the next meeting?
Table item C.
Motion by Mr. Levinheim, do I hear a second?
I will second.
Second by Mr. Albert, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, next to the consideration of the Smithfield Gateway request regarding escrow account, escrow sub-account A. I expected Doug to be here, but maybe Julia or Don.
I can give you a brief overview. Currently Smithfield Gateway has 6 different escrow accounts open with the township.
Right.
We're ready to close down one of them and to make things a little bit easier. They want to ask and make sure that it's okay that we take money from sub-account A and shift it over to a different escrow account that they have. Doug had also mentioned to me, sub-account A specifically has a $10,000 renewal. And because we're so far in that contract, and that's actually the St. Luke's portion,
Yeah,
they were interested in potentially lowering that. But seeing as he's not here, my suggestion would be to table this. I'll reach out to Doug and find out what happened and we'll get him on the next contract.
it's still fine.
Yeah.
An undefined request is not, it's okay.
Without seeing anything written in front of me, I don't feel comfortable.
Generally,
considering
it sounds fine because St. Luke's is pretty much set, but you know.
Although the road is not.
No, but I don't know if that's in that one or in their other 5.
Yeah, you gotta.
The road and the infrastructure is in a separate one.
No, I'm not talking about the new road, I'm talking about 2 and 9.
Oh, well, that's not part of that at all. The 209 improvements are not part of escrow.
Oh, they're not, they're part of the,
Right.
okay,
And out oversees that project, they're not completing it.
but didn't they have a bond for that?
Yeah, but we don't have.
Oh, we don't have
jurisdiction over
bonds. Ah,
that, Right, this is just specifically with
The site work.
but
while we're on topic, how does that relate to site work? Across the street, like with Dairy Queen? You know,
They haven't done anything there. Are you talking about the PennDOT work?
the PennDOT work,
Well. I guess I don't know.
okay, I mean, there's, the front part's nice, but like, this. Writing only is pretty horrendous.
yeah,
Well, and the striping is horrendous through there
The
too.
striping is horrendous, it needs to be repaved.
And PennDOT's been told this by me. I think Doug has said. He knows it's a problem.
But PennDOT has the bond, they have the money. Okay, so it's a PennDOT problem.
correct. But now, generally, when you say other side work, you also mean like the level coming out the other side behind Dairy Queen, 'cause that I think.
No, I don't mean that, I mean, I'm literally talking about the on-ramp from Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
It looks terrible, there's flags everywhere. But that's not, that's more PennDOT, just have to redone.
The problem is it's a PennDOT project, but it's not completed by them. There was a,
Contractors.
right, but it's not the state doing it.
The
Yeah,
contractor's not doing it, but PennDOT is overseeing.
And who has the money?
PennDOT.
Okay,
Yeah,
Will that, hump that's in there that causes people to jump off
oh,
the
right in
stretcher?
front of the,
in front of the service place,
Yeah.
that's a speed bump, it's a new style speed bump.
Yeah, but well, they're making blacktop now. You might remind them of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That was their.
That
It's our excuse for a long
And
time.
by the way,
Yeah.
unfortunately, I believe that stretch. Is not even the space.
Oh, but they said they'd fix it.
Well, they'll fix it,
or we make
but
them
you
write.
might not see that for a couple of years.
I think I'll be seeing Doug tomorrow, so.
Yeah.
Alright.
We'll ask him.
Yeah, all of that part though, in that
Be here
spot.
tomorrow for the 5 o'clock meeting. It's basically 3.
It was part of theirs, or if it was close enough, it's still. Figured it
I'll
out.
try to get some.
Yeah. Alright.
Like you said in a meeting, we have that done by this summer. I think I recall.
No, correct, it was supposed to be by like Memorial Day, it was the last, then we talked about it in March. I don't pretend to understand the intricacies of why it's not. But I think we have indicated to them many times that.
Just if you could get an update, please will see him, and let us know at the next meeting, that'd be great, just because it's actually dangerous when it's wet and dark, because you can't see the stripe.
Yeah.
I leave here at night when it's.
Yes,
wet,
yes,
so I
yes.
know firsthand.
So I don't know if there's a way we can raise that issue. on
Raised it
PennDOT.
with PennDOT, but that probably plays the hand of exerting pressure on Jim, so maybe that'll happen.
We'll find out from Jim,
I'll find out
from Doug.
Yeah.
what their
Could
schedule
we
is.
send correspondence or something?
I'll be at the next meeting to motion to do such a thing.
Cool. Alright, do I hear a motion to table item A?
Table item A.
Motion by Mr. Levenheim, second,
Second.
Mr. Up there, any questions? All in favor? Aye. Next, for consideration of the Healthy Minds conditional use decision. Do I hear a motion on that?
Well, okay, right, so. So I am going to, motion. To approve the Healthy Minds conditional use with a number of conditions. Should I read them out?
Yeah.
All right. And just so everyone's aware, right, supervisors are allowed to discuss it, so we have discussed it, we haven't made a full decision, but these are the things we discussed. So conditions include for land development, and by the way, after I read these, I will give a copy to you guys, and I cannot give a copy to Amy on the phone, but I don't know if there's a way we can quickly email it or something. Amy, are you on the call?
Zoom, and you can attach.
I
it as
am
a
on,
file.
thank you.
Once I'm done, could you email it to her? Once I'm done reading, okay?
Yes, I see the document, I will do that.
Okay, so, there's 30 conditions proposed. And I will say, a vast majority of these, or most of these, are items that were listed in the applicant's, application for things that were planned on being done, and or testimony. So this is a testimony that these things are gonna be in place. We want to make sure they were in the conditions, so that they're held to these, based on the testimony. So, the proposed treatment facility will be gated at the entry driveway. There shall be sufficient sanitary sewage capacity, sufficient water well capacity. And again, some of these things are already gonna be in land development, but we just wanna make sure they're in there. The applicant shall submit a visual impact plan that demonstrates appropriate steps have been taken to mitigate on-site and off-site glare, including but not limited to a plot with a matrix of the calculated foot candles with measurements 10 feet into the neighboring properties, including those on the opposite side of the public right of way or public roadway at 5 feet above the ground. No, number 5, no outside lighting sources should exceed color temperatures of 2,750 Kelvin. This is equivalent to the spectral emissions of indoor lighting and is meant to ensure no nighttime interference with nocturnal patterns of animals and birds. These lighting ones, there's a bunch of lighting, they're all from the Dark Skies documentation, which will probably go into place when we are with our new ordinance on lighting, but we want to have them in here because that ordinance is not in place yet. Number 6, a description and artistic rendering shall be provided of the proposed external lighting equipment, including photometries, glare reduction devices, lamps, on-off control devices, mounting heights, pole foundation, and mounting methods. 7, the entire outdoor lighting design shall be analyzed using industry standard lighting software, including anti-reflections in the following manner. Input data shall describe the lighting system, including luminaire fixture locations, mounting heights, aiming directions, and employing photometric data tested in accordance with IES guidelines. Number 8, all site lighting shall meet the Illuminating Engineering Society of North American full cutoff criteria. Well, technical terms here. All right, I think that's it for lights. No, it's not. 9, vegetation screens shall not be employed to serve as the primary means of controlled night glare. 10, mounting height for light poles shall not be more than 15 feet. And that's the light ones. So number 11, so there's 10 there, almost 10 on lights. Number 11, fencing shall entirely surround the leased area to be used by the facility. This was discussed. Fencing should be of material in keeping with the rural surrounding area, such as split rail fence. So we are recognizing, or this condition is recognizing that it's not meant to be a prison. But there shall be appropriate posting signage indicating no trespassing. Fencing shall fully delineate the grounds of the facility and assist patients, neighbors, and golfers alike of the grounds of this particular use, and that trespassing is not permitted. No fences may be installed that could impede the passage of wild animals. Number 12, analysis confirmed that the location of the existing maintenance driveway on the property provides the best sign distances along Tottscap Hill Road, and accordingly will be modified to provide, shall be modified to provide access directly to the proposed facility and will serve only on the proposed facility.
I think that's supposed to be sightline distances.
Which one? Where
It
was I
says
saying?
signs. It was,
Oh, yes, the best site distances. This was specifically, part of exhibit K9 that was presented by the applicant. So something that was already promised effectively. Number 13, if the existing golf course is retained on the property, golfers will continue to access the property by the car pass from the adjoining parcel only, i.e. golf course vehicle traffic will continue to utilize the existing golf course property and parking and will not access the Tops Gap Hill Road driveway serving the proposed facility. Also was noted in the application. And then these two are quite important, Amy, so I want you to highlight, because this is one that we had a number of discussion on. The golf course use and the treatment facility use will be geographically separate, exclusive, and distinct. Golfers shall not be allowed to access the treatment facility and vice versa. Now, that might seem obvious, but our ordinance states that you must have 25 acres available for a treatment facility, while the entire parcel is 33 acres. That means that this is number 15, a full 25 acres shall be used for the treatment center and not the golf course. We believe this is in keeping with what our ordinance says, that there is 25 acres that is dedicated to that use. There's nothing in our ordinance that says that you can have a mixed use on this particular property, which would be golf and treatment facility. We're not saying you must have a subdivision, but the 25 acres needs to be dedicated to the treatment facility. All right, number 16, facility requirements. The facility is permitted to have a maximum of 60 beds and shall have no more than 60 patients of any type at any time. It will be a private, freestanding inpatient drug and alcohol substance abuse rehabilitation facility, accepting patients 18 years and older on a voluntary, i.e. not court-ordered basis. Again, this was presented by the applicant. Visitors must present identification and agree to search for contraband and prior to being allowed to see patients.
Can I interrupt for one moment, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
If we're gonna say visitors, we probably should define what they are. I mean, are they mom, dad, brother, sister, mom, dad, brother, sister, grandparents, uncles, aunts? I know that may seem to be a bit overkill, but I can see, you know, the motorcycle gang of Hells Angels coming to visit, you know, and then they're having a problem because we didn't define. So however the board may want to do it, doesn't have to do it right now, but before there's any final action on this motion, there should be some definition.
Okay, well, I suspect there'll be questions on any of these items, so let's about that, visitors need to be defined. 18, outdoor smoking shall be limited to designated areas kept at a minimum 100 feet from edge of the property. Screening and background checks for all staff for both criminal and sexual misconduct offenses. For example, upon admission, patients shall undergo complete screening background checks for criminal and sexual misconduct and a search for contraband. Further, anyone, whether patient or prospective employee, has been convicted of a felony or negative law offense would not be accepted as patient or employee at the proposed facility. Again, I've got a reference here in my document for where this was already stated would happen. There will be provisions for overnight security, including alarms and cameras at exit doors to alert security if someone has opened a door after curfew. This was also presented during testimony. The applicant will install gates to enter and place surveillance cameras around the facility at its access points. Additionally, there will be alarms set on the access doors and lighting to notify if doors are open after curfew. After a designated reasonable curfew, all doors existing in the facility are to have a monitor, alarm, or camera system notifying central station that someone has exited the building. Again, this was presented, that this would be done in testimony. 21, all medications, whether prescribed in connection with alcohol and drug addiction therapies or for a separate diagnosis, are kept in a secure location per state licensing requirements. So again, a little redundant, and you said you would do it, but we wanted it in there. And they're administered by a medical professional, Number 22, adoption of a policy to prevent improper disposal of drugs or other controlled or contraband substances into the water, sanitary sewage, or other environmental systems. 23, all appropriate licensures in place, i.e., I don't know if I need that, but GCA, CHO license for additional treatment centers and CARF license for rehabilitation facilities. So you have to have your appropriate licensures. If you lose them, you lose your conditional use. 24, Healthy Minds is required to obtain licensures through the Pennsylvania Department of Health and Services and the Pennsylvania Department of Drug and Alcohol Programs. The proposed facility will be subject to scheduled inspections as well as unannounced inspections under DHA and DDAP licensing. Again, part of the license and was also presented in testimony. DHA and DDAP licensing will also require installation of security cameras and smoke alarms and pre-approved treatment programs and properly licensed personnel, including mental health counselors, psychiatrists, nurses, and the like. Again, presented in testimony. All right, we're up to 27, we're almost there. Patient faculty requirements. The program is an entitled inpatient program, restricting patients from leaving the delineated treatment property for work or school or prohibiting patients from having a vehicle. Patients are required to participate in a full 7 to 8 hours of therapy and classroom work each day, in addition to meals all provided on site. Again, this came from testimony. The policies and procedures for the proposed facility include discharge protocol for patients who have completed the programs and for patients who are either electing to leave before completing the program or who are being dismissed for failure to abide by the rules. In all cases, a patient's family or primary contact is initially contacted to collect the discharged patient. Patients are not permitted to leave the premises unless in the care of a family member or facility staff. Again, this was presented in testimony that it would be done anyway. Number 29, facilities shall provide and make public a phone number that is monitored 24/7 by a staff member where anyone may call to report a concern to the facility. This is really around people potentially leaving and on their property. 30, all patients are supervised and monitored 24/7, 365 days per year by surveillance cameras on all exit doors. I've already said this, but larger areas such as lobbies, cafeterias, lounges. The facility will be monitored for video surveillance on exit doors in larger areas such as the lobby, cafeteria, lounges. Audible open door alarms will be installed. B, after a designated reasonable curfew, all doors existing in the facility are to have a monitor, alarm, or camera system notifying the center station that someone has exited the building. I already said that, but it's just one was inpatient faculty requirements, one was under the facility. Also presented.
Okay, for the sake of procedure, there was a motion by Mr. Albert. Do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Levenheim, and now we can have discussion, but also the intent is to allow folks with party status 15 minutes to.
Well, I don't know if you need 15 minutes, but I think it is proper to give the people who have party status an opportunity to review the conditions so that there can be an intelligent discussion regarding same. So I'd say 10 minutes, 15 at best. It's your call. Obviously, we have, Ms. Carroll here, I believe. I think we also have the other individuals and
Are there any other party status? I don't see them.
No,
email.
not here, no. Confirming, I'm okay to send this to Attorney Farrell.
Yeah, that's fine. Send it to Attorney Farrell.
Sent.
Alright, so let's
And,
recess this at 6:45 and aim to come back by 7 earlier if everyone's good with that. Is that fair?
Are we allowed to do our other stuff or no?
You can do that too if you want. You can do the
I
other call while
suppose.
they're looking.
Although if the parties want to confer, we have a conference room that you can utilize or a lobby, up to y'all.
Do you want to use the space? Do you desperately want to talk about the other things that we're talking about too, just so we can?
Or we can wait, it's up to you.
We were just gonna say, well, over the 15 minutes, we could take care of our other agenda items, but if you.
Right,
Either two others.
yeah, that would be great, thank you. Yeah.
Alright, you'll take them to the.
Yep.
Oh,
So let's just call it 15 minutes. Amy, did you get the file?
I did. It just showed up.
alright, so we'll proceed to the other two items, C and D, while we wait for that. C is requesting the planning commission reviews, both the county and the township planning commission reviews for draft ordinance regarding B1, B2 deletion and revising bed and breakfast. This was done in accordance with some of the work in our joint sessions, and it essentially clarifies where the lobbies are and signage. We had a couple of differences between B and Bs and some others, so we basically delineated exactly that, and then we removed vestigial references to the B1 and B2 zones, which no longer exist as of the enactment of the economic development zone in July of 2020.
And clarify the definition for bed and breakfast as well.
Yep. So also just requested formal review from both planning commissions, so we can discuss that further. Do I hear a motion on that?
Motion.
It's by Mr. Levenheim,
I'll second.
second, Mr. Albert, any questions?
So just so I understand, all what we're doing right now, we're just getting two planning commissions to review it, both of them? Correct. Formally, and then they come back here with change, and if we have changes, we make the changes. Because this is the first time
And then
we've had
it'll be
this
re-reviewed.
change,
Yeah.
then re-reviews.
If we make changes.
And then they have to review them again.
If we make changes to,
Well, they're two different bodies, so they're,
well, if,
if we make changes to this,
yeah,
okay.
so this is us, I mean, we worked on it with Howard, so we think it'll be fine, but it's
Right.
basically, if the county planning commission says, hey, you should really think about this, then we'll get this.
Okay, cool. Just want to understand the process, and then you advertise, and people can read it and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
Are there any questions from?
Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And next, the consideration to amend the Board of Supervisors meeting schedule and authorize the advertisement as such. For the last 2 years or 3 years, we've been meeting the second and fourth Wednesday of each month at 6 p.m. But for some of our folks, it looks like it's easier to do it at Tuesdays, the second and fourth Tuesdays at 6 p.m.
I just changed the zoning for bankers from Wednesday to Tuesday.
Oh, really?
No, because I was conflicted with the fourth Wednesday.
Oh, wait.
So you can keep it, but I may not be here for the second or fourth Tuesday.
Wednesdays are really hard for me. That's my issue. It's a tough day. My wife travels.
I
Most
understand that.
Wednesdays.
What I'm saying is that I probably not make the fourth Tuesdays if there are banger zoning matters, because we've just advertised the change
Man, we
from
didn't know
the
that y'all were.
fourth Wednesday to the fourth
I
Tuesday.
didn't know you were doing that, Gene. We were discussing not starting this until the end of July.
You know, a banker doesn't have any zoning.
No, I mean, hasn't impacted us.
It really hasn't impacted us until lately when, you know, the moon is in the right sky and then this and that and all that other jazz, so.
Yes.
Make that change and we'll just deal with it.
Okay.
Are you guys okay with that?
So that would mean our next meetings,
Our next two meetings, this will be the same.
right, so the next meeting after this one would be June 26th, and the one after that would be July 10th, but then July 23rd, that's when it shifts
Okay.
to the
It's
second,
gonna be the second and fourth Tuesday.
correct,
Yeah.
at 6,
6 p.m.
yes.
Yes,
We originally
it
counted,
doesn't affect the EAC either, because they're the thirds, right? Tuesday.
July 23rd is when it shifts,
And the 23rd is the Tuesday?
yes.
That's when they'll be. Would you say second?
Second and
Still
fourth,
second, fourth, so literally just a day
still that,
before.
still 6 P.M.
Just one.
Yeah.
So on July 9th, with the second Tuesday, that's not gonna change.
Correct,
But
that
still-
will still
still-
be July 10th,
So it'll be a Wednesday on the 10th.
Okay.
and it won't affect the Zoom or anything else, that'll still be on,
So after the 10th, it'll be July what,
July 23rd,
Third,
23rd?
after that, we'll move to second,
That's
fourth
a Tuesday?
Tuesdays.
correct. It's funny, the board used to meet, so,
They used to do Tuesday.
yeah, when I first started, the board met the second and fourth Tuesday at 7. Please don't let this confuse anyone. It's
It's still six.
still, yeah, and that was at 7, but every Wednesday, it felt like they were doing more substantive stuff. And so when I became chair, you know, it was
Switched
like,
to
should we
Wednesday.
do it still Wednesday, because most of them were then, but now Wednesday's the bad day, so back to Tuesdays.
I have a conflict every Wednesday, and also my wife travels most Wednesdays, so
It's all
it
good.
just makes it harder for me.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to amend the Board of Supervisors meeting schedule to the second and fourth Tuesday of each month at 6 P.M.
You couldn't postpone it one week, I mean, to the next one, it's my daughter's birthday, she's never had a birthday in the United States.
Starting in August, then, starting in August.
Okay, everybody, please forget that, it will start, you're fine?
Yeah, I'm fine with it, this should start in August.
The second Tuesday in August is the 13th.
Great.
Alright,
I just know if I was here rather than there, I
Okay.
better not go home.
So everything the same, except for
Yes.
that second meeting in July will still be on the Wednesday.
Oh, really? 24th?
yes, yeah, so now, alright, now, put it in stone.
It will be the
August
second and
13th.
fourth, starting in August.
In August.
Okay, August.
Makes it easier on paper.
What's
There
the
we
first August date?
August 13th
It's August 13th,
Okay. We
yes,
still have 3 meetings before that.
August 13th and August 27th, and then from then on, it'll be the second.
Starting in August, it'll be the second and fourth Tuesdays instead of 26th.
Yes.
All right, I will make that motion.
Will you amend your motion to include the advertisement of that?
I will amend my motion to include the advertisement of such change of dates.
Motion by Mr. Albert, second, Mr. Loveenheim, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We gotta remember to tell these guys that left that we're gonna show up on
Yeah, we'll definitely.
Tuesday, Wednesday in August.
Yes, okay. So now I can take general public comment if anyone wants to do that. Otherwise, we'll just wait a few minutes and then they should be back in a few minutes. Okay. Okay, sorry, Tara.
Question, so you indicated in the engineer's report that the decision, you pulled information about Price Landing Road and you made a determination. When is that gonna be shared with the public, especially the residents?
I would hope next meeting, the information's been compiled, there's a question or two that was raised. When I did the research that we just have to get an answer to, because there'll be questions that'll be raised by the public when we give them the answers, so we want to have the answers.
Okay.
Just don't have that yet.
So look for that June 26th then.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So another question for you. Just a clarification on your meeting with tomorrow. I think you said it was regarding possible modifications to the plan that he wants.
Yes, and I don't know any more than that yet. 5 issues I don't remember what they all were. But one, for example, was, does it need a lot consolidation plan? I'm not sure which lot he was talking about. He says he's got to change we had already approved, an escrow account amount for site improvements, that has to be revised based on what's going to be done. And there were a couple other things listed, but it wasn't really clear as to what it was all about.
Right, so you'll get more info tomorrow, but.
And he'll be at
certainly-
planning commission, right? Tomorrow?
I don't know if that's coming to the planning commission or not.
I think
He is,
Okay,
yes. So I mean, certainly we're open to modifications to the plan, but this is a reminder and, you know, this runs in the declaratory judgment that for each phase, he has to pick either the 2005 plan as it was approved or the amended 2007 plan as it was approved. So we're open to talking about changes, but I'll be curious to hear more after you talk to them.
yeah, and again, that to me sounds like a legal issue, which I say as far away from as I can. Hopefully he's only asking me engineering questions and procedural questions, I think is part of it.
Martha, for your sake, I have had a personal conversation with him this week, and my understanding is that they're not doing anything with 2007. So just to make it simpler for you to, what am I looking at? This plan is 100% sticking in 2005.
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Okay.
One minute will time.
Mr. Chair, have you signed that, the verification? Because if not, you can, and then pass it over so we don't forget about it. And then I'll send a timestamp copy of the document.
Can I ask more comments?
Yeah.
Any more comments, questions?
I have a question. I was just looking over the bills that you guys have, and you have 3 constables, and it totaled to about $1,800 for the month. What did you use the constables for?
that was for protection at the parks, peacekeeping at the parks.
At the park?
Yeah, to make sure that no one, you know, vandalized. We cleaned up some vandalism the other day, so we wanted to make sure that none of that happened over
Oh,
holiday.
all right, thank you.
It's good, nice and transparent. We have this stuff.
There's no.
Well, I've got one fun announcement.
Okay.
If I can read it.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Is it actually fun?
I think it's fun. I don't know, I'm sure all of you are always checking our E-code every day. But I wanted to officially announce that for the first time forever, all of the resolutions that the township has passed, that the township has record of passing, have been scanned, categorized, and are digitally available on E-code. We have been working very diligently. It took our staff probably close to 60 to 80 hours to do this project. And we're so excited to see it done.
That can all be accessed via our website.
Via the website, you go right to the bottom and it's a public document spot. You click on E-code and it's right there on the left under public documents. So we've started on the resolutions, we've finished the resolutions, and we are shifting our forces and our abilities to dealing and getting up all of the old ordinances now. So
That's terrific.
it's an exciting step forward
Me too.
and making all of that.
Particularly a crazy amount of work on there. You can note that under the board report. Might as well put. I mean, in fact, these are really notes, not necessarily reports, because if it's significant, will be voted on, but you can note that there. Maybe I'll just have a manager's section there. Comments or something like Pocono Township does.
We wanna call back. Tim, what time do we?
Go ahead, Brett.
It's at 7, so you got a couple minutes, yeah.
Julia, is this part of, there was a discussion earlier on about a central database within the township, so all the various commissions and councils could know what everybody else was doing at any given time. So everybody's kind of on the same page as to the various, or the various commissions' agendas. So everybody-
So we're required to post, like the Board of Supervisors agenda, the EAC, the Planning Commission. All of those are required to, by law, to be posted 24 hours in advance. So we have all of that on our website. If you go under boards and commissions, you can see everything that's available. We're in the process right now of also, albeit slowly, scanning all of our backlog. Like I mentioned, E-code earlier, you can go on, and I think we've gotten everything from 2020 to 2004 from the Board of Supervisors on E-code now. And so we're working on cataloging and getting all of the stuff that we don't already have. But that's how we're working backwards right now. As far as moving forwards to making sure everybody's on the same page, all of that information, all of the agendas and all of the minutes, once they're approved by the board, have already been uploaded to the website.
Let me just add to that. I just said to Michael, we were looking at the reports part. We could probably add, whenever we know there is a submitted report. I hate when there's stuff and you add stuff and you write no report. But when we know that there's something that, as significance that came out of a certain committee, plus our emergency services, I know in a few weeks, we're gonna want to start call volume, that type of stuff on a quarterly basis or whatever. We could probably just include those under there. Like, we knew tonight we had a sign update, so in the future, maybe I'll list it under that rather than under new business or something like that. That'll help.
This is also pertinent with the EAC. We're kind of newly formed and we're not convinced everybody knows we exist and or that we matter. So we're just we're here, and rather than us reach out to everybody and tell them individually, you're part of the process.
Yeah, and I think there's some ways that we can continue to incorporate. I know we've cleaned up the website for y'all, so
Thank you.
yeah. Good notes. Okay. So we never actually stopped. I know everyone wanted to still talk, and then we talked a bunch about agenda formats, but we also changed our meeting schedule to the second and fourth Tuesday of each month at 6 rather than Wednesday.
Starting August.
Starting in August. So that's August 13th. So that takes place. And then we request planning commission reviews for that ordinance on the B1, B2 deletion, and then the bed and breakfast that y'all went to the joint session.
Michael, isn't Tuesdays and Thursdays bathroom night?
Sunday night. Wednesdays is family day.
Concerts. That's what it was, Tuesday, concert.
Sorry.
I will sing the minutes at the next one. Oh, I see.
No, I won't answer.
I want you to do it like that. Okay. Yeah. All right, so we've had the various parties confer, so we can resume discussion on item B, the Healthy Minds conditional use decision. Yeah, how do I want to start? I know we flagged at least
Maybe let's hear from our
two things, or no, one thing, but I will hear from council, and then we'll hear from y'all, and then we'll get back. So Attorney Farrell, floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I just had just really three of those conditions that I wanted to just suggest either a minor clarification or a question on. Number 11 is the fencing entirely surrounding the leased area. I'm wondering if that should say a combination of fencing and or landscaping to be determined by the supervisors during land development. And the only reason I suggest that is I know there was a lot of discussion during the testimony about whether additional buffering and screening might be advisable and whether the neighbors would like to see some additional screening along some of those boundaries. So I think that the opportunity to kind of have that conversation during land development and decide where it should be fenced, where it should be landscaping might be advisable.
Well, I think our intent was really to delineate one property from another or boundary. So I would say anything that makes an obvious delineation would be fine, in my opinion. Just combination of fence and shrubbery that does the same thing.
And we did, one of the goals of this was around in keeping with the rural surrounding area. I mean, we didn't actually think that either party would probably want that area that looked like a massive jail with metal prongs and stuff but it's important for people to know where to go, where not to go. So I mean, I don't per se have a major issue with it, especially if it has to go for approval in land development. And
Right.
if we reference that in here, I think that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I think that gives us all at least the opportunity to kind of work through that. And it may ultimately be that it's all, the decision is there has to be fence everywhere, but I think there's at least an opportunity then to have that discussion about where maybe it's better to be landscaping instead.
Yeah.
The other one was number 17 on the visitors. I'm not sure, I guess, Ron, what your concern was with just visitor. I would think the way that it was drafted initially, visitors must present identification and agree to a search. That would apply to anybody that walks in the door that's not an employee.
Patients or staff.
Right.
If we need a definition, the definition would be any non-patient and non-staff that is visiting.
But I think.
Yeah, I think that would be, that would be our preference, just because that way it's clear. We don't have to guess each time at who does or doesn't come under that umbrella. As long as it's not a patient or a staff member, then I think it's a visitor.
I think we're getting at is family, relations, people who are somehow connected with the patient in terms of being it the family, spouse, whatever it is, it's tough to define, but that's what we're looking for. So,
Well, and I think if they're just saying, fine, just make it any person that's visiting the property, that's great. That's everyone.
okay.
So.
Okay.
Can I raise a little point about that? What about like vendors, they're delivering
That's what I was thinking.
stuff like that?
And delivering snacks.
Did you hear that, Amy?
Amazon guys don't be.
There's questions about delivery
Oh,
drivers.
that's a good point. I mean, certainly if you qualified it to say, patients, employees, and, regular delivery personnel shall not constitute a visitor, then I think it's clear that what you're getting at is, everybody else.
Anyone that's gonna see a patient. Effectively,
Right, yeah, because I don't want to get too, I'm concerned about getting a little too particular about defining that, because I don't know who a visitor might be. We might have a patient who doesn't have immediate family, but has a close friend that is their support. So I don't want to get into like, it's got to be a parent or it's got to be.
Absolutely.
I think the point was that people coming into the building that are seeing the patients are going to have a search for contraband. I think we all agree that that's. So.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. If there's a way to, however you want to wordsmith that to make that work, then I don't, I think that's fine. That does what we needed to do as well. And then my only other one was on number 23, all appropriate licensures in place, i.e., and it goes on to define a couple. I just would like to say somewhere in there, to the extent required, I just, in part because these licensures and the nomenclature changes fairly often. And so I don't want to say, yep, we're going to get this JCACHO and then have that be something we can't get, right? Or there's some other license yeah, something like that, just so it's clear that, we're going to go get all the licenses we're required to get. I just want to make sure that we're not technically creating a violation one way or the other, because either the state adds a license that's not listed here, or they take something away that we no longer need.
Can we just change 24 to say Healthy Minds required to obtain all federal and state licensures? And it says through Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think that's fine. All, federal, state, and local licensing is fine with us.
Confused, we're talking about 23, now we're 24. What number are we on?
Well, I'm trying to do both of them because they're both about licensures, so I'm just saying combine them. And say Healthy Minds required to obtain all federal and state licensures, period, including those through the Pennsylvania Department of Health and Services, Pennsylvania Department of Drug and Alcohol. And then you get rid of 23, right?
I was gonna say, I mean, if you keep it to the extent required by state and federal law. Rather than listing
Okay,
specific agencies.
Yep.
Because those may change.
Those were my only comments.
so 23 and 24 get removed, and instead it's Healthy Minds is required to obtain any and all licensures required by federal and state law to operate a drug rehabilitation center.
So noting all of that. Parties who would like to. Anyone wanna comment on their?
I would, yeah, thank you.
So, first and foremost, 10-15 minutes isn't a whole lot of time to understand, particularly some of the more technical aspects of these. I don't know if we could postpone the vote until we've had a chance to really understand what we're commenting on.
Technical things in here are just repeating what is, state law and federal law anyway. I mean, it's
Right,
nothing
okay.
reinvented.
Well, but, and again, I wouldn't know that, so. So I'll leave that there. My overall impression is that these are far more, about a summary of their presentation and not truly conditions. A lot of them are simply requirements for them to operate. So making it a condition just seems like fluff to me.
Well, so can I just speak to that quickly?
Sure.
The reason why that was done is because they said they were going to do it.
Mhm.
If they don't do it, they don't get to operate.
It's
But then
important
we're
because
stuck with a big behemoth building in the
But-
middle of a environmentally sensitive area. So it's kind of like letting the horse out of the barn, you know, and it's kind of too late.
I'm
And
gonna,
that's-
I'm gonna
that's fair.
object here because we're starting to get into argument as to whether or not you should be approving this. If there's questions with respect to the conditions, I think it's appropriate to have that conversation this evening. But the argument as to the merits of this application were closed at the last hearing.
Alright, we're in general comments, so I'm gonna be flexible, counselor, but
A lot of them are, how will you actually know if the conditions are being met? You know, a lot of them aren't within the control of the township. So while you can make it a condition, quite a few of these, you'll never know if they're really being enforced.
can you speak to any specifically?
she means like the security and stuff like that. I have to go visit to see it. Well,
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
enforced in that way, just like it would be with any other.
yeah, adoption of a policy to prevent improper disposal of drugs. You'll have to test the water routinely to see if there are drugs in there. Are you willing to do that?
Sure, I think there are means to do that, but one of the things is any of these facilities has to submit all of their policies to the state as a condition of their licensure.
Mhm.
So that's something that will be able to be in
to
time.
review, if it's not in there.
If it's not in there, yes, but even if it is in there, how will we ever make sure that it's being followed?
Well, that's not our responsibility, unfortunately, that is.
Well, if it's a condition and it's not being followed, then what happens?
Then they face the withdrawal of their permit.
If it's already built
Yes,
and they're already operating, you
Yes.
shut them
That's
down.
our conditional use.
yes.
But again, we're still stuck with the behemoth building in the middle of a
Same objection.
mentally sensitive area. Okay. Numbers 13 and 15 seem to be considerably contradictory to me. This here talks about the existing golf course. Golfers will continue to access the property via the existing cart paths. And number 15 talks about the full 25 acres being excluded from the golf course.
I would agree with you.
So that would-
I would say that I don't think, based on our conditions, that they can operate a golf course here.
I would be inclined to agree.
I don't think you can operate a golf course on 6 or on 8 acres. If
Mhm.
they wanna try to operate a golf course on 8 acres, we can't stop them from doing that.
Mhm.
But and that's why I iterated, I wanted to make sure council was aware of what our ordinance says, and it says that you need 25 acres to operate a treatment center. That does not mean you can use 2 acres on a 33-acre parcel to operate a treatment center.
Mhm.
We all
Correct.
agreed on this, and so if they want to dedicate 25 of those acres to this treatment facility center and its surrounding open area, that's fine, but those 25 acres cannot be used for golf. But what we're saying by this 13 is they cannot, sorry.
It can't be used as a public golf course for anybody to come in and use it, if they wanna use.
Well, they can on this 8 acres. If
No,
they,
no,
if
I'm
they
not
want to,
talking
but they're not
about
gonna be able to.
I'm talking about the 25, if they wanna have golf as a recreation, that's part of the treatment. And say that it's only for the patients to play on that 25-acre parcel, that's fine. Like, we're not objecting
But
to
then it
that.
can't be open to anyone
It
else.
can't be open to anyone else,
In short, I think I agree with you.
so.
And that's why it says if the existing golf course is to retain on the property.
So the entire application was based on, Chuck stood here and testified that he was instructed to design the plan.
I'm
to
gonna object
include-
again. We're now back into argument. You've already suggested conditions here. We've indicated we don't have an objection to those conditions. We also, in our briefing to the board, suggested these very similar conditions. Now we're having a re-summary of testimony that was done in a hearing that was closed a month ago.
Right.
Because the
Hold on,
conditions
hold on, hold
seem
on.
to be in contradiction to the
Hold on,
testimony.
Hold on one second, Christine. Counselor, I know that we had the public hearing before, but that's closed, so